Hey guys, welcome back to Susie on the Farm. Today is the new Iron Orchid Designs Winter Collection release, and I challenged myself to do a video or do a project with all 18 of the new designs. It was tough, but I got it done, and I can't wait to show you guys so you can have all the inspiration for your own creations. All the products are available on susieonthefarm.com. Let's go ahead and get started with the projects. For project number one, I'm going to be using the Victoriana mold. This mold has all these dainty little embellishments. I love the bows. There's also the two little birds and some cameos. I'm not sure at this point what I'm going to use, so I mixed up some of the 10. Actually, I think this is the overnight resin. I mixed up some and I just poured several. Like I said, I wasn't sure what I wanted to use, so I poured out several. So it was the 10-minute because it turned out white. I wasn't sure. I've been doing so many projects for so many days. But look how beautiful these are. I love all the details. For the project that I'm going to be making over with these, I found this really cute little, just a plain recipe box. So I thought it really needed a makeover. So that's what we're going to be doing with these today. I'm pulling all of these out of the mold, and a couple of them it looks like I over poured, so it's pretty easy to trim those off. I paid $3.99 for this pretty basic recipe. I cleaned it up really good, and now I'm using Quick Bond Tight Bond quick and thick glue. I'm just arranged these in a way that I thought looked good. I'm gluing them on the front, and I'm also gluing some onto the top. I could have went way more on this, but I felt less was more in this case, if that makes sense. Got everything glued on, and then I let the glue set up a little bit where I could come back and paint this. For the paint color I have chosen, I'm using Fusion in the color Bellwood. It's a really pretty soft sagey green color, so I thought that it would be perfect for fall or the holidays, or really just year round. This mold, one thing I do love about it is it's not just a Christmas mold. It can definitely be used year round. In this case, I did wait for the glue to be completely set up because I want to be sure to get in between all of the details of that mold with my brush. Sometimes you kind of have to manhandle it to do that. But I painted this entire thing inside out, front, back, bottom, everything with 2 coats of Bellwood, and then I let it dry. And to finish this off, we're going to come back in with some white wax. I love either dry brushing or using white wax over these molds because they're pretty right now, but you can't see everything. So the white wax really brings all of that detail out and just makes all those details really pop. I'm pretty particular when I'm wiping back my wax and all of these little areas. I like to take a fine bristle brush and just brush them out until I just really get the wax how I want it to look. And this turned out so elegant. It's a beautiful recipe box, and it is available on susieonthefarm.com if you're interested. Project number 2, I'm going to be using the transfer book Santa's Hollow. I do like to show you guys each page fairly slowly because I know how important it is to see what you're buying. So that's why I like to show each page of these in my IOD release videos. So if you don't want to watch those, just skip ahead a little bit. But if you do, that way you can see every single page in full detail. This Santa Claus is definitely going to be used first. For my project, I actually found 2 of these plaques. They were taped together with packing tape, so I had to get a lot of goo off, but we're going to use one for this, and I just sanded the little bit of paint so it would not show through, and then I'm going to paint the entire thing with 2 coats of white swan. I could tell after that first coat in the center there that it was going to bleed through, so I took it outside and I sprayed it with some shellac. I am not worried about painting the edges. I'm going to do something else with that later. But for now, I am going to decoupage a little bit of this Music Notes Masterboard. This is one of the new Roycycled decoupage papers, and I think it makes a wonderful background for a lot of projects. So I am just putting a layer of the Fusion decoupage and transfer down. I did a little starter strip to get it straight and going, and then I'll work my way down, getting out any wrinkles with my brush as I go. I'll let the decoupage paper dry completely, and then I'm just going to come back with a little piece of sandpaper and sand any edges off before we move on to the next step. I'm using, I think, probably a 220 grit sandpaper and sanding in a downward motion. There's a little lip there on the edge and it's coming right off. Before I put the transfer on, I am going to take some little black dress and I'm going to go ahead and paint the edges or the sides of this. That wood was really beat up and just didn't look good especially after they used the packing tape on there. No matter if I got all the gunk off or not, it still didn't look good. So I'm going to use the Gorgeous Santa in the Santa's Hollow mold. And I also collected several pieces of holly trim. So I'm going to go all the way around with some holly and then add a few more pieces in as well. Just adding as much of that holly on here as I can. It looks gorgeous just like this. You may could put a label up there and maybe write ho 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 on it or stamp ho 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 in a label. That would have been a good idea, but I decided to go with the holly border. I end up every year not having enough time to use all my transfer booklets, so I'm not being stingy. I have told myself, put the transfers on the things, Susie. So that's what I'm doing. I'm using as many transfers as I can. So next year, when it's time for this new release, I don't still have a ton that I haven't used from last year, which I do have right now. I have a bunch of last year's transfers. But anyway, I do love how this came out. I think it's perfectly simple and just so sweet. I love this Santa. It was a very easy project. I took some pictures as is, and then I decided to put the word joy from another transfer pack in that little ribbon on the bottom of him, and I thought that was a cute little addition. I also sealed over the transfers and sealed the paint in with some DIY Big Top. Speaking of St. Nick, y'all, we finally got a Santa mold, and he is perfection. If you're wanting to get one of these, I suggest you get one now because they're not going to last long, and all of the IOD Christmas products are limited, meaning once we sell out of them and IOD sells out of them, they're gone. So I had this frame in my stash. Was going to paint it. As you can see, it's really scratched up. I poured the Santa mold, and I had just a little bit of the 24-hour resin, and it was just enough to pour this Santa mold. It was actually quite thin, and I was able to break off a little bit of his hat there, which was good because that's how I was able to fit him in the oval part of this frame, which is exactly where I wanted him. So I glued him in with some Tite Bond glue, and now I'm going to come back and paint the entire frame and the Santa mold with a couple of coats of Fusion mineral paint in the color Champlain. Fusion is an all-in-one mineral paint, and it paints on so smooth. It's so easy to paint with. It's definitely a favorite, and I love this soft, creamy color. And you could go all out with this Santa mold. I've been seeing so many pictures where people are painting his hat different, putting some little rosy cheeks on there. That looks so beautiful. I'm doing 18 projects in about 5 days here, so I didn't have time to get super in detail, but that's one of the great things about IOD. It makes it so easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. This is the Sugar Plum Fairy stamp, so I'm going to use a couple of elements from this also with this Santa, but I wanted to show you guys first. And don't worry, I'm also going to be doing a project with this once we finish this Santa. But I'm just going to go ahead. Anytime you get a new stamp set, you want to scuff up the back of it just a little bit. That just helps the ink with the brand new mold. So I'm just taking those 2 corner pieces and I'm doing just 2 corners. I think looking back at it now, I think I should have done all 4 corners, but I like the way the 2 contrasting corners looked here. So I'm just stamping them with some IOD black ink, and these stamps have so much detail, y'all. They are just beautiful, and I just love it. And the great thing about stamps is they can be used over and over and over again, just like the molds. If you've been around my channel a while, you know that I love to put this Fusion aging wax over anything light or creamy, and this mold was the perfect thing to put it over. I started by just going over the mold. I thought that I would just do the Santa, but I ended up doing the entire frame just to give it a more cohesive look, and that is the most satisfying thing right there when you're wiping back that excess and you see that mold come to life, which is what this one did. And I love how he turned out. My mind is going crazy with all the projects I want to do with this Santa mold. Okay, I told you guys we were going to do the Sugar Plum stamp next, and for that I'm going to be using a clipboard. I love to do clipboards, and there's a great item that you can do in bulk and just use a stamp set, some decoupage paper, and call it done. For this one, I'm just going to do this one, and I'm using Fusion mineral paint in the color Rosewater. I'm thinking ballerina. This would be a perfect gift for like a dance coach, especially if they're doing a Nutcracker show this year. So I got the whole thing painted with 2 coats of Fusion in the color Rosewater. I did the front and the back, and after the paint had dried, on the back side, which keep in mind the back side of a clipboard is generally what most people are going to see. The front side's going to have a notebook or paper or something on it. But for the back side, I did the 2 Nutcrackers, and I cannot get over these Nutcracker stamps. They look so good. They're so full of detail. I think it would be fun to know how many times I say the word detail in this video, because I can already think in my head that I have said it probably a dozen times. And maybe I have, but every time I say it now, I'm going to be thinking about it. But anyway, I just love them. They look so good. I put the tree in the middle, and then I did the fairy and the word Sugar Plum Fairy on the back. For the front side, I did the ballerina and something else. Let's see. Oh, I did those edges too. I'm using a thin mount, and I just kind of tickle them, if that makes sense. When you're on a flat surface like this, it's very easy just to tickle them. Now here's where the fun part comes in, and it's just those little extra things I think that really make a project special. So I had thrifted some carpet samples a while back, and that's what this is. I've really been trying to work through the fabric. So all I'm doing here is cutting this one into the shape of a tag, and then I have that little round pink tag as well, and I'm going to use the two little ornaments from this stamp set on those. When you're stamping onto fabric, you really have to press in really hard, a little more than you do onto a painted surface. So I got those two stamped, and then I went through my box of little things because I really thought I had a ballerina charm in there, and I did. And I also had a little pink bead, so I strung that on there. I strung this charm on there, and then to finish this off, I'm going to speed this up, but I'm just tying a messy bow out of some different ripped fabric strands that I had, and I love doing these messy bows. They're very easy and they look so good on anything. This one has all kinds of different fabrics and laces. The more the better with these messy bows. I tied the little tags on with it and tied that onto the clipboard, and I think it would be so cute if you had a pretty little dainty pink pin or something that you could tie on here with it. But I just love how these look. You guys will have to let me know what you think about this clipboard. These are a great seller for me. I always sell all out of my clipboards in store and online. Next up, we have Figgy and Flourish, and this is a gilded transfer, and I'm really sorry about that glare. It's the light in my studio. But the great thing about this one is we've added in some silver elements, and I love silver for Christmas. You have half of this book is silver and half of it is gold. They have a lot of the same elements. They all have these, the alphabet. If you wanted to do some insignia ornaments or something, would be really pretty. Lots of pine cones and lots of different beautiful elements. These two pieces have been in my stash for quite some time, and for whatever reason, looking for this, I found that they were a perfect marriage. Look how perfectly, this is just a vase, but I'm going to turn it into a cloche. I tried to glue that on, but it wasn't a big enough on the to stay glued, to be able to pick it up with a handle. So I decided the safest bet would be to use my little handy glass bit and drill a hole so I can screw that knob onto the top of this. This is really easy to do, but not if you're in a hurry. You don't hurry doing this. It's a very slow process. It takes a long time. The bottom of these glass vases are a lot thicker than they look. I did eventually get it done, but before then, I ran the battery down on my drill. So in the meantime, while my battery's charging, I'm going to go ahead and put one of those silver transfers onto this cloche top. And I'm using one of the pine cone transfers. It can be a little tricky to put transfers on a really rounded surface like this. I usually start in the center or start on one side. There's no way that you can do it all in one time. And the great thing about these gilded transfers is you kind of have to, they're really easy. You do not have to rub hard at all, but I like to rub and lift and check to make sure that it's coming off. I do a lot of rubbing and lifting with these. But this was a great addition to this cloche, and to style it, I'm even going to put a pine cone inside. I have not got all my Christmas decor out, obviously. I have just switched over the store to fall, but I think a bottle brush tree, one of those silver bottle brush trees, would be absolutely the best thing. But all I had was a thrifted pine cone and this cute little bow. So that's how I styled it, and I think it is just so precious. I loved this transfer book so much that I'm going to do 2 projects with this one. You know, if I'm going to use the silver, I got to use the gold too. I'm always picking up these apothecary jars. And here's a trick for y'all. Anytime you pull anything sticky off of glass, there's always all that residue. My trick is just to use a little bit of alcohol and it comes right off, easy peasy. For this one, this is a pretty big apothecary jar, almost big enough to be a cookie jar. So I'm putting this confectionary one on here, and again, rubbing and lifting until I get it transferred. And oh my goodness, y'all, look how pretty it is. Moving on to the Partridge Lane transfer book. I love the color scheme in this one. Again, with that glare, sorry y'all. Look at the houses, they're so perfect. And I love, like I said, I love the colors in this one. This one has like the 12 days of Christmas, the Lords a Leaping, Ladies in Waiting, all of that. It also has these beautiful swags and ribbons, another set of houses, and these are shops. Just so many different things that you can use in this one. I'm going to copy the back of this one because I love that tin that they have a picture of on the back one. But I'm going to paint mine with mint chip. This is a really old tin. It's rusty. It actually was sitting out on my front porch for a long time, kind of hidden under a side table. So I didn't know it was there, so it collected more rust. I did 2 coats of mint chip, and now I'm coming back to distress it because this one has a lot of great detail in it, and I want to bring back some of that gold underneath before I put the transfers on. So I heavily distressed the entire thing, and I'm going to put those houses on the front part, and I picked out a pretty little wreath that fit perfectly on the top here. It was very easy to transfer, even with all the extra little nooks and crannies on this tin, they transferred beautifully. All that's left to do with this one is to seal it up, and for that I'm going to use DIY Big Top, and I think this may be one of my favorite projects that I've done this week. There are so many to choose from, but I especially loved this one. It has a kind of kitschy look to it. Okay, my friends, this is the Holly and Pine stamp, and this has a tree in it, and I love this tree. It's not decorated. It is so pretty and so woodsy. That's what I love about this entire stamp set. So again, first time I'm using it, I'm going to scuff these up a little bit. I have these 3 embroidery hoops, so I thought it would be fun to do something with them. And sometimes it is hard to stamp ink onto drop cloth, which is what I'm using in these embroidery hoops. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think this project was actually a fail. I was able to save it, but I am using the color Aviary, and I just painted it onto the stamp so that I can stamp this tree onto the drop cloth. And as you can see, I stamped really hard. It still didn't come out great. So I'm taking my brush and I'm just painting in to fill in a little bit of that tree. And then I'm going to take the stamp again with some IOD black ink once the paint has dried. And I will go back over it to more define those areas and define the edges, which still just quite didn't turn out the way I had hoped. It looks okay, but to save it, I'm going to use a transfer. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the next transfer book, and this one is called Winter Botanist, and this one is selling like crazy. It is full of all these birds and butterflies and winter florals and labels. It's just amazing. I love this book. And I will do a whole project with this one after we're done with the current one. So to save this project, I found a couple of elements that I thought I could add on to the tree, and it really did save it. It turned out really cute. It was easy to transfer these onto the drop cloth, and I love the addition of the birds and the butterflies with it. All I did from here is put it back in the embroidery hoop, and I tied a little red ribbon around the top and cut the excess fabric off of the back. Because I struggled so much with this one, I decided to save those other 2 embroidery hoops, but I do love the way this one turned out, and I think it's so cute. For the Winter Botanist transfer project, I'm going to use the other one of these plaques. I have already sanded down those florals. They're not raised, and I'm going to give this 2 coats of Fusion in the color Champlain. It's that pretty creamy soft color. I do love the wood tone underneath. So when the paint was dry, I went ahead and heavily distressed all the edges, picked out a gorgeous transfer and applied it, sealed it with Big Top, and that's all there is to this one. So simple, so stunning. If that last project was considered simple, this one might be considered difficult. This is the Winter Forage mold. It's got pine cones, it's got holly leaves To start with, I'm going to dust the molds that I want to use, and then I'm going to use some IOD air dry clay to fill them in. These molds are real easy to use because IOD has that little rim on the side, and I just take my thumb and rub it until the sides are clean, turn it over, let gravity help with the release. And I did 2 of these different, one's a holly, I'm not sure, some kind of pine on the other one. Now, while that clay is setting up a little bit, I'm going to paint these 2 frames. The Live, Laugh, Love is definitely over, but I didn't want to toss these frames. They're perfectly good frames. I gave them 2 coats of White Swan, I think, and this is the new Roy Cycle decoupage paper called Christmas Flock. It's just a really festive, it's got poinsettias, and I'm speeding this up and probably not going to tell you guys how I'm doing this because I'm really just winging it. I'm getting that decoupage paper down in there. I do have to tear it a little bit to get it to lay down flat, but I do eventually get it. The second one, I decided to try cutting that area out, decoupaging in there, and then going around, which that worked well too, but it left some white areas that I have to fill in with a little bit of extra decoupage paper. But either way, it's all going to work out in the end. So I let those dry, and once my clay was dried up a little bit, I went back and I'm using, I think this is Manor Green. This is a fusion color. I'm painting both of the entire things with Manor Green, and then I'm coming back with some Fort York Red to paint those holly berries on there. And then I also use some Woodwick to paint the stems and add a little bit of contrast in the leaves as well. And then I set them aside to let them dry some more while I sanded the edges off of the dried decoupage paper. And then I used Type Bond Quick and Thick glue, and as you can see, they kind of broke up, but it was very easy to place them back into position. And I've got them like coming out of the frame, and part of it's laying on top of it. Just, you know, this is a real multimedia type situation, but I thought that it was a great way to make use of these frames without just painting them and sticking a picture in them. It really gives them a whole new life. Once I got the greenery all glued down and the glue had dried, I came back with my favorite Fusion Aging Wax. I went around the edges and around that center part and around the molds and wiped back the excess, and these are complete. I feel like these are such a great addition to your holiday decor. And I think I'm going to be keeping these for myself. They have stands where they can just stand up on my mantle, and I think they're so precious. We are halfway done, y'all. I think we have 8 or 9 more projects to go. This is the snow globe mold, and this one's gonna be extremely popular. Everybody is getting this mold. It's just so amazing. I'm gonna use resin in this one. I'm pouring up enough resin to do 2 of those little scenes. Those are thinner than the globes, so they actually fit onto the globes. I have also seen, I'm not sure how, but I've seen where some people are pouring those first and then embedding them into the globes. We'll see about that maybe in the future. This is after they dried. I love how how smooth they are. I had a whole plan for these. I'm speeding through it. It was a fail, but we're going to end up saving it. To begin with, I painted Midnight Blue, and then I used Rub and Buff and painted the snow globes with that. I left the scenes white because I was going to use some of the aging wax to bring out those details. So I glued them on there. I glued them onto my very plain little napkin holder there after I painted it also inside and out with the rub and buff. I probably should have used some liquid patina or golden ticket or something like that. I glued the snow globes on, and then the next day, after letting it dry overnight, I did the wax, and it rubbed off all the rub and buff, every bit of it, except for what was in those details. So I was frustrated. I went home for the night, and this is the next morning. So one side looks okay. I probably could have went back and repainted that other side and just not did the wax. But by that point, I was so frustrated, I went a whole different route. This is Fusion Metallic. This is the bronze color, and I love using it. I use it all the time. So I painted the entire napkin holder, the molds, the snow globes, the scenes, everything. I did 2 coats of this, and then I let it dry. And then I came back and dry brushed some black rub and buff over the details. You can already see them so much better, but just the little addition of that little bit of black shading really helped bring those out. So I do feel like this was a save, and I love this mold. I'm going to make some ornaments with this and use some of those Partridge Lane transfers in them. I think that will be really beautiful as well. But this napkin holder came out really good, and this one's available on the website as well. This is the Christmas Joy transfer book. This has been another really good seller. It's got some beautiful elements in it. I'm going to flip through it here for you guys real quick, and then we'll do our very simple project. I picked up this gold vase a while back. I love the color of it. It doesn't need anything. It was on Dollar Day. I'm sure I got it for $1, and this tree had to go on it. I love the candles on this tree and all the little details of this transfer, and this one transferred beautifully on here. I really wanted to put a tree in this vase, but like I said, I haven't got all my Christmas stuff out yet, so I didn't have one. But I did have some of this floral that is available on my website. This is called Ruscus Berry, I think, and it's a half sphere, and half spheres are so easy to use with about anything. We have a Bibelos tool mold, and this one has hearts, and it also has the little hanging loop. So if you're using resin, you do not have to put any kind of hanger on them. That's what I love about this one. So I poured one of each of these up. I'm gonna do them all matching. I'm using the 10-minute resin, and as you can see, it is drying for me as I'm still pouring. This is one of the recycled new papers. This one's called Christmas Wallpaper. I'm putting a good layer of the Fusion Decoupage and Transfer Gel all over my ornament, and then I'm taking the wallpaper, decoupage paper, and pressing it into it, and also putting another layer of the transfer gel on top. I'll do this floral one on a couple of them, and then the other half of that decoupage paper is this pretty plaid. So I did plaid on a couple of them, and these are left from that Christmas flock that I used previously on those frames. I'm cutting out this bird to put him in the center of the heart, and then I will do something with that decoupage paper onto the other heart as well. I let all that decoupage paper dry, and then I'm going to come back with a little piece of sandpaper and easily sand off the edges by using a downward motion. I also pulled some random transfers, some from the Winter Botanist, some from Partridge Lane, just different ones here to embellish these. So I'm going back and forth here trying to decide which ones I want to use where. And I used a couple of wreaths on the larger ones and some of these ornaments on a couple of them. Got them all transferred down, and then I'm going to use a red on these. I thought about using a more neutral color, but I've done that with a lot of these projects, so I decided to go bold or go home. So I'm using Fusion Fort York Red. I'm going to paint all the stems, the backs, and the edges, if need be, with the red. Before painting, I do need to seal those transfers in, and for that, I am using DIY Big Top, and I will let that dry. I have been talking now for a couple hours doing this voiceover, so my throat is starting to hurt a little bit. You might notice that I'm getting a little bit quieter. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I hope that you are getting lots of inspiration. I also hope that you will take the time to like this and leave me a comment. If you're still hanging in here and still watching this video, go ahead and leave a bird emoji in the comments, and that will let me know who has hung out with me this long, because I really appreciate it. Now I'm using some white wax over all those details, rubbing it back, and these turned out pretty cute. You could do all different kinds of color schemes with these. For this one, I just chose to use red, and I tied them up with that red velvet ribbon. I'll probably do some different color schemes as well. The ideas are absolutely endless with these Bibelos molds. Finally, we have got to one of the paint inlays. I didn't mean to make you guys wait for so long for this. So this is 12th Night, and it's got black and white, red, green, sepia, and it is gorgeous. I love all of the tinsel, all of the wording. The images are amazing. So many projects with this one. I know a lot of you are still quite scared of the paint inlays. I know they're a big investment, but they are so worth it. You definitely get your money's worth, and they're actually my favorite to do now. I love using paint inlays because it's actual paint. It's been really like you've painted it on there. My thrift store had this really big cabinet door priced at $24.99. So it's no wonder it didn't sell. I snagged it on Dollar Day for $1. And it was right when I was doing these projects, and it couldn't be more perfect for this paint inlay. As you can see, I'm going to use that Merry Christmas and make a beautiful sign out of it. I'm doing 2 coats of White Swan all the way around. I think that's White Swan. It might be vintage linen. Either one. It's a white paint. Any white paint will do. I'm doing 2 coats and around the edges, and when I do the second coat in the center, I'm going to put the paint inlay into the wet paint. So I am loading it up. I'm doing a pretty thick coat of paint there in the center, but also making sure that it's really even. This Merry Christmas is almost an exact fit for the center of this, so it should turn out really good. So I'm laying the inlay into the wet paint. I did mist it on the paint side. People always ask me, which side do you mist? And I always miss the paint side. And then lay the grid side up, and I'm using my finger to make sure there are no wrinkles. I don't want this one to look distressed or anything. And then I re-wet it, dab off the excess water, and let it dry. So at this point it's dry, and you can tell I'm spraying it. It is darkening back up, and now I am pulling back the paper, and it is leaving this gorgeous hand-painted looking image onto my sign. It looks so good. I heavily distressed it, and now I'm sealing it up with Big Top, just being careful not to rub too much because it will smear that paint inlay. If you're not comfortable rubbing on them, you can always spray seal them. This one is Clementine, and I'm in love with it. This one is not necessarily Christmas. It's very fallish to me. I think it could be used right now in anyone's decor. I picked up this quite large rectangle vase, and I thought it would be perfect for one of these transfers. I laid it on there, and sometimes transfers will go easily onto ceramic like this, but I was on the struggle bus with this one. It took me quite a while to rub this down, and what I thought was going to be an easy project ended up taking me a while, but it turned out stunning. I styled it with some fall floral, and this one is available on my website as well, and I love it. This is the Autumn Blessing stamp, and y'all, we got some pumpkin stamps. I'm so excited. However, for today's project, I am going to be using both of these turkeys. And I had painted these leaves. These are like Dollar Tree leaves, and I had painted them years ago for my own home fall decor, and they need a makeover. So I had painted them that burnt orange color, which I love for fall, but I really wanted these stamps to really stand out. So I painted just the front of them white, and I'm going to stamp each of the turkeys onto the stamps. And then also I'm going to use a couple of those laurels to add just a little bit more around the stamps. To finish these off, I am going to distress around the edges and bring back some more of that burnt orange and just really clean up any of the white paint that I did get on the edges, and then I will seal up the paint. The stamps don't need to be sealed because they are permanent ink, but I do need to seal that DIY paint, and for that, my go-to sealer is usually Big Top. The other paint inlay in this collection is called Laafoli, and again, this was another one that I think can be used year-round. It does not have to be Christmas. It's got a lot of beautiful elements in it, including the gorgeous stags that were so popular with the Chateau paint inlay. If y'all remember that from a few years ago, we got lots of borders, and they're so pretty. I love the color scheme of this one. I couldn't find anything in my stash to do one of the bigger ones. It's getting kind of slim in here, y'all. I've done so many projects this week, but I did find this little plaque, and I thought that it would be really, really pretty to put some of those borders around it. So I gave it 2 coats of DIY white paint, and now I'm going to put the inlays on the sides. So I'm putting a pretty good even coat of paint, wetting my paint inlay on the paint side, laying it into the wet paint, and then I'll use my fingers to make sure to get it laid down flat and not have any wrinkles or anything. I did the florals on the side, and then I'm just going to use those little like berry leaves, I guess, and I'm going to make sure to have them go in different directions on the top and the bottom, if that makes sense, or maybe that is the sides. I'm not sure where the hanger is at this point. Once those have dried, I'm going to come back and wet the entire thing and lift each of them off, and I've got really good at these paint inlays. They are really just like anything else. The more you do them, the better they are, depending on the surface. Sometimes there is a lot of chipping or a lot of distress, I guess you would say, but this one turned out perfect. I did want to bring back some of that black from underneath, as well as that coppery color that was in the metal tin part. So I carefully distressed that using a wet rag, making sure not to get my rag into that paint inlay, because that will smear. You do need to be very careful, especially before your paint inlays are sealed. But I heavily distressed all of the inside and the edges, and then I sealed this up. I think I spray sealed this one up just to make it really simple, and I really didn't want to run those colors together. Funny story though, while this was on my table drying, before I removed the paper on the backing, I had to go take Mason to physical therapy, and while I was waiting on him to get out of physical therapy, I ran in a little antique store. I found 2 more plaques exactly like this one for $1 each. So I picked them up. I might do the exact same thing, and these will be a gorgeous group of 3. We finally made it to the end, y'all. I'm using the last 2 stamp sets on one project here. This one's called Christmas Post. It's got the postcard elements and all those pretty things. And this one's called Christmas Wishes. For both of these, I thought Christmas cards would be fun. I didn't make Christmas cards, but I did decide to do a little notebook so I could just play with all of these stamp sets. So I'm speeding this way up because this is kind of a little bookmaking process. I'm not using, I'm using packaging. I'm using the paper that we fill your packages with. I'm using some tea-dyed notebook paper and 1 page of my prized ephemera possession, which is a ledger book from like 1940, and I absolutely love it. I use it very sparingly in junk journaling. I'm not going to explain all the process that I'm doing here, but it's a lot of inking the edges. I just really want you guys to see all of these beautiful stamps and how I use this in this little unique book. So I've got all the pages for the signature made up here, and then I'm just deciding where I want to put things, and I know that I want the sleigh to be the middle page so you get the whole spread. You can see it like that, being that that is the biggest stamp. So that was the main thing I was going for, and then I just embellished all these pages using different stamps, and then I bound the book together. And it's nothing special. It's just a little something that I wanted to do. I had worked really hard. This was the last project that I had done, and I just wanted to relax and have fun and be creative. That's my ledger piece. And I actually pulled out the page. They had, where I got it from, they had placed a 4-leaf clover in there to dry, and what I was pointing out there is how you could actually see where that 4-leaf clover had been in there. It was so fascinating. I'm obsessed with ephemera. That reminds me, I have started a new section in my website called Books and Ephemera. It's not quite ready yet. I've got a lot to add to it because I am a collector of all sorts of ephemera. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, I'm using both the Christmas Wishes and the Christmas Post in this. And the details in these stamps are amazing, especially this snowman. He's so cute. I'm almost done with this, and then I'm going to slow it down and do a little flip through for you. What would you think about getting something like this, a handmade little journal type for Christmas? I think it would be a good place to keep a record of the gifts that you're given for Christmas. Each year, there's lots of writing space in it. I just love making little things like this, and I usually get a lot more in detail with my journals. This one was just, like I said, I needed to relax and do something that really was enjoyable to me, and these stamp sets were perfect for paper crafting. If you're a paper crafter, let me know. I'm considering So far, I don't film any of my journaling. This is the most I've ever filmed of bookmaking, but I'm considering a second YouTube channel. Let me know. Not that I need more work to do, but and that is kind of my craft that I get to enjoy without filming and without selling anything. But let me know if you guys would be interested in something like that. Well, that's a wrap, guys. We finally made it through another Iron Orchid Designs holiday release. I hope that you have been inspired. I can't wait for you guys to get your products and see what all you can come up with. Don't forget, join the Susie on the Farm Inspiration Group. I want to see what you guys are creating, and that's a great way on Facebook to show me pictures of things that you have created with products that you've purchased from me. So thank y'all so much for watching. And next Wednesday, I will be back here on YouTube. But I also do a live on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Central. It's a very laid-back craft with me section that is very enjoyable. Fun little community we have there. And I would love to have you guys.